Hello guys, Sanjay here. So as I've been saying, Qi is a badly designed resonance system, not an inductive system. There's no difference, but if you keep repeating a lie n number of times, people start believing it's true. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. But I guess you will notice it the most when you're expecting a lot of money and instead it disappears. Then you go out looking for the truth. An example of that is the Resonance A4WP standard, which was supposed to have taken over the entire market by today. A lot of companies, including Intel, lost a lot here. Do we understand why that happened, or are we going to persist in that era? We've got to do a far better job in learning from our mistakes, preferably their mistakes. Steve Jobs said it the best: if you don't innovate, you'll never make a mistake. So it's best to admit it and move on. Apple would know about that, you would think. With that in mind, we're going to do a little bit of deep digging here to see what happened. And of course, you can tell I'm a dog lover, but don't hit exit yet if you want to save a lot of money. So here's the original patent on which G is based, 2002, still assigned to Abbey in case you didn't realize that. And it says that please tune both the receiver and the transmitter exactly to 100K and you will get back some power transfer. Big mistake, it's the double resonator assumption which has shown up in literature everywhere, including a 2019 patent by Halo Qualcomm. I can't believe it, for vehicle electric charging. No one seems to have got it right. The double resonator assumption in effect ignored the fact that there's a huge shift in the resonant frequency peak, up to 40% for a coupling of zero point 0.5. Higher the coupling, greater the shift. Transformers in regular switch mode power supplies do have a very high coupling, but for reasons of efficiency, they're not operated in the resonant region, so this doesn't apply. Qi, on the other hand, is operated in the resonant region, and they better be aware that there's a huge shift. Higher the coupling, higher the shift, but they seem to assume that the resonant peak is fixed at 100 kilohertz. Big mistake. Resonance kind of assumed the same thing, but they got away because their coupling was lower and the shift was a little lower, so they kind of got away. But surprisingly, all of them seem to have explained their theory, quote unquote, on the basis of sympathetic resonating strings, which have a very, very low coupling, unfortunately. There is no comparison. So, with a growing sense of disbelief, I actually went to the Wayback Internet Machine to look at the archives of Wireless Power Consortium. And indeed, there were articles which they have now removed for some reason. And they compared the system to resonating strings, which have a coupling, I don't know, 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000 times less. So I don't see the analogy at all. And that explains their poor user experience, the constant alignment anxiety we have now experienced with Qi. But the worst was yet to come. You rushed to Amazon and bought an $89 fast charger to complement your $1,000 expensive phone featuring Qi charging, and you put it excitedly on the charger, little realizing that there's a hot coil pressed against the battery. Your battery life in any case is going to drop to half, and the battery's protection circuitry will rush in to reduce the charging rate to 3.5 watts measured. Compared to that, our solution is probably too good to be true. We have a proprietary transmitter coil structure which enables a very tiny coil on the receiver, which is no longer pressed against the battery. Your entire phone can be almost metallic again, it need not be plastic or glass, and you will get a full charging rate and a full battery life too. And of course, you can see the screen while you drive in a car, and you would prefer to charge two phones rather than just one phone or maybe three phones. So here's a tiny coil at the bottom of this vertical load, and I'll show you an experiment. So we can charge it, and it's full 15 watts. It comes up, tracking the resonant peak very efficiently. And then you can actually turn it, and I can't tell you how we did that, but it's deriving still full power. And now I'll parallel another vertical load just to show you we support multiple receivers. It can be up to 3, maybe 4 if space permits. And we support a very high power 1-to-1 mode. So have a look at it. There's a tiny coil at the bottom of this. I'll show it to you towards the end. And it comes up with 75 to 80, and we can make it easily about 100 watts. And the input voltage is only about 18 or 19 volts maximum. At that input voltage, they could get 5, 10, 15 watts maximum, and we can get such a high power from such a tiny coil, roughly 10 times smaller than their 5-watt coil. And now a quick checklist of all that we did. We corrected this double resonator mistake. We adapt to the moving resonant peak. We change the magnetics. Our tiny receiver coil can be put in any electronic device. For example, we have the world's smartest FOD requiring no communication. And since we got everything right, we could do better than G compatibility. Watch how we do our variables on a standard G transmitter. They can't do it. Still, they have very bizarre creations. Dual Qi mode, we do it better than anybody. Two standard Qi receivers very close to each other with no interference, no crosstalk. Ideal for a car. And an FOD which requires no communication, the world's smartest FOD. And that is exactly what happens when you get the physics right, when you understand nature and adapt to it rather than defy it. And you're not going to lose money again.